Here we are, mid-January, and long gone are the bright lights of New Year's Eve, the large aspirations, the goal setting, the vision boards of January 1st, all that kind of good stuff. But here we are, we're in the real world now. We're back to work, back to the grind. And what I want to talk to you about today is what happens after motivation dies. Let's go. Okay, you just caught the intro. Like I said, motivation always dies. It always fades out. Now we're mid-January, not far separated, but a little bit separated from the massive excitement of January 1st and all that comes along with it. I'm guilty of it myself, or I'm in that same boat myself. I love January 1st. I love starting things. I love building new projects and setting new goals. I love the corny stuff. I love the vision boards. I love telling people all that kind of stuff. But I'm also very, very quick to realize that that is a very motivated state. When the calendar turns over, it feels like there's endless possibilities. But realistically, that doesn't last forever. So what we're stuck in now, or what we're in now, is mid-January. You're going to be listening to this for the first time January 15th. Coming up to January 19th, which is next Monday, which is, we weren't going to talk about it much, but Blue Monday. It's a real thing. So everybody's feeling the winter blues. There's studies that say people are getting their credit card bills from Christmas. People are back to the monotonous work. People are back to the grind, all that kind of stuff. The dopamine that you hit like an all-time or an all-year high through Christmas break comes crashing down back to reality when you realize that, didn't win the lottery or whatever that is. And I think that's a very real thing that not enough people talk about. So what I want to talk to you about today is what actually happens when that motivation dies, because it's going to. Motivation is temporary. I've shared with it before in the past, but a great Zig Ziglar quote is motivation is temporary. It's like bathing. That's why you need to do it every day. So if you're not putting that positive content into your mind, it's just going to fade. And even if you do put that positive content into your mind, it's going to fade anyways. So what we need to make sure is we have those systems built, those monotonous systems, we talked about it last time, those low floor goals that you can definitely hit all the time to keep that consistency rolling. So again, what motivation actually is, to me, motivation is, it's that nitrous, that fuel that gets you going. It's that starter, right? I heard a long time ago, you should never set goals in a motivated state. And that statement kind of bugs me a little bit, because if you're not going to set a goal in a motivated state, believe me, I've tried to set goals in really, I don't know what the total opposite is, but unmotivated, I guess. I've tried to set goals in a very unmotivated state. And at that point in time, your goal is just like, I need to get out of bed, or I need to get off the couch, or I need to stop ordering, skip the dishes, whatever that is. But the reality is, if you only set goals in a motivated state, you feel like you can conquer the world. Now, that's not the worst thing ever, but also doesn't really set you up for success and is kind of not super conducive to achieving a lot of goals, right? If I'm like super motivated, I'm super healthy, and everything's going well, and I say, whatever that is, I want to lose 50 pounds. The reality is there's a lot of work that has to go into that. And then if I start that work and all of a sudden I get a cold, which many people got sick over the Christmas break, that always happens, myself included, get a flu, and I haven't worked out in a week, right? I haven't even been drinking enough water. I haven't been eating enough food, all that kind of stuff. But now if I were to set a goal today, coming off a bug and feeling tired, and I'm sleeping more than ever, and I feel less rested than ever, if I were to set a goal today, I'm like, man, can I run a marathon? No, it's more like, could I walk around the block is my goal today. So you kind of need to find that balance or that middle ground, or at least have that clear self-awareness of what that actually looks like for you individually. So for me, I like to make sure that I'm motivated, but I'm very mindful that if I am motivated, I'm not going to set that like, I want to buy a Lamborghini before the end of the summer. And then if I don't get that, I'm just going to be crushed, right? Because the reality is there's a lot of things that have to happen before I can go drop $300,000 on a car. So you need to be very mindful of where you're actually at. Once that motivation starts to die off, because it will die off, and what we see now, especially just through the ebbs and flows of life, a couple weeks into January, we're kind of starting to die off that strictly motivated state, and we're into the real world in a sense. And I don't want to say that too negatively, but now we're into the state where I've set the goals, or you've set the goals or resolutions, whatever that is to you. Now, how do they come to fruition? What can I do? And without motivation pushing me forward, what does it actually look like? Because that's when people start to quit. Like all the stats, all the studies, after a couple weeks in January, people start falling off their goals. And it's not a huge thing, right? Like you're not going to make a social media post saying, boom, I quit my goal. I'm so excited. Thanks for all the support for the last week and a half, but I'm done. It's not how it works. It's a very quiet and slow, well, not necessarily slow, but a very quiet drift. So what is actually happening there? Why are people quitting? And why are people quitting specifically after motivation just dies out? For me, the biggest thing to keep in mind is when you're not motivated, quitting is so damn easy. At least it feels like it looks so damn easy. Like if you're going through something hard and you just have the opportunity to quit, doesn't that sound like an easy choice, right? It's pretty clear. If you're, one analogy for me that kind of stands out is if I'm driving down a freeway and the road feels long and I just don't want to be behind a wheel anymore, and there's all these overpasses, and every time you pass an exit, sorry, not overpasses, there's all these exits, and every time you pass by an exit, there's a sign that says, just, I don't know, easy street, life in the easy lane, give up and rest, whatever it is. And there's all these opportunities just to kind of slide off, right? And just to kind of, quietly quit, just like drift off to the side and pull off in a parking lot and have a nap, or maybe there's a McDonald's, or maybe there's I don't know, whatever that is to you. There's that easy drift off. So I think for me, a big reason people quit is just so damn easy. You look at a couple specific reasons of why it's easy to quit is, for one, again, we talk about delayed gratification and what that actually looks like. When we're working towards our goals and we expect, and I'm guilty of it too, we expect very quick results and very quick momentum. If we don't have that delayed gratification in our mindset, you're not going to see immediate results on anything, right? Again, I think the best example for me is you take a very motivated state where you set a goal, and if, again, New Year's seems to be very much fitness goals, right? I know there's business goals and life and relationship goals, all that kind of stuff, but the easiest for me to communicate this feels like fitness goals, right? So for me, the best analogy there would be that roll of paper towel. And I know I've brought it up before, but where you're super motivated and you start spinning a roll of paper towel, and sheets of paper towel are not spinning it, but if you start pulling off one sheet of paper towel at a time, that roll of paper towel is not really going to change in size. It takes, you have to do a dozen rotations before you can actually even tell that roll of paper towel starts to get smaller. Now, with that consistency, things speed up. But that initial, we'll say the initial, 2 months, if it's a fitness journey, you might not see a lot of results for 2 months, 3 months. And that initial 2 or 3 months, especially that initial 2 weeks where it feels hard on the body. Nothing feels comfortable. It's really, really difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel or why you're doing the thing. There's just that need for delayed gratification, because the reality is if you don't push through those points where nothing's changing, you're never going to get to that end goal anyways. Another thing for me is you mistake low energy for an issue, going the wrong direction, when in reality, low energy is just a matter of life, right? Sometimes your energy is up, sometimes your energy is down. Depends on what you eat, depends on how you sleep, depends on the sun, depends on your mood, all that kind of stuff. And if the first time your energy is low, you can't stay consistent with those low floor activity goals or those low floor expectations, you automatically believe that that goal is not for you, right? Then all of a sudden brings me to the next point is essentially if you find out that goal is not for you, you're unmotivated, there's two things you can do. One would be you start to drift, which we talked about, taking that exit off the highway or the freeway. The next would be you massively overcorrect, right? Oh, I missed my last 2 workouts. I had McDonald's for lunch. Or if you're in business sense, I didn't make my sales calls. I missed that appointment. Maybe I slept in for a meeting, whatever that is, and you massively overcorrect. Slept in for a meeting, so the next day you're at the office at 5 a.m., joining the 5 a.m. club. Not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're usually there if you wake up at 7 and then all of a sudden you decide one day you're waking up at 5, that's going to be a hell of a turnaround, and that's going to be really, really tough to accomplish. So you massively overcorrect. If I going back to the freeway thing, if I start going off that exit to Easy Street and then I decide last minute, no, that's not what I want, how am I going to get back on the freeway? You can be super dangerous and just massively overcorrect, right? Sometimes you need to take that exit and get your way back on the freeway, whatever that looks like. But to do that massive overcorrection can cause a lot of damage. You're talking about, losing sleep, injuring yourself, negatively impacting relationships. If I'm in sales and all of a sudden I haven't made any sales for the first month, and then I go and try and force somebody into buying something, if I'm a car sales, if I force somebody into buying a car, they're probably not going to buy the car, and they're also probably going to be pretty pissed off with me. So, realistically, you don't want to do that massive overcorrection. You just need to be consistent in your job, consistent in your fitness, in your relationships, all that kind of stuff, and just nice, easy course correction back on track. And lastly, I think a very strong one, and I've been guilty of this in the past too, is you want to protect your ego. If I'm not going to achieve what I thought I would achieve, it's easier to find some sort of excuse, right? Some sort of that's not what happens here. That's not what happens in my city. That's not what I do. My family's big boned. My family doesn't put on muscle. My family, that's not how we were raised. That's not what I believe. That's not who I am. And you create, or you really lean into the stories that you tell about yourself, or that you feel about yourself, that align well with where you are in that specific journey. All this is very practical. Like, we're up against it. It's winter. It's dark. It's cold. It's warm today, but it's bound. It's just not a time that's super conducive to high energy. There's just more friction. You're getting back into consistency. People are sick, whatever that is, but you feel the same expectations. So sometimes those similar expectations can be very, very difficult to meet with more friction. So again, we don't want to talk about a massive reset. We don't want to talk about a massive, massive shift. It's just getting back on track. And part of reaching goals and achieving things is just the clear realization that you will not be motivated every day of the year. So what does that actually look like? So if I'm unmotivated, then I will focus on the bare minimums, right? What will that be? And some days it's just drinking enough water. Some days it's getting in steps or movement. And I'm not talking about 10,000 steps. I'm talking about if I have a fitness goal and I'm supposed to have 3 high intensity workouts and 3 cardio days, and I'm on day 3 and I'm just not getting any of them done. Let's just not throw the week away. Let's meet ourselves where we're at. Maybe it's, I just need to make sure I get 8,000 steps in, or maybe I can just start and do, okay, I'm not going to get my 6 workouts, which is kind of intense anyways, but I'm not going to get my 6 workouts, but I can get 3 solid ones in the last half of the week, or 2 or 1, whatever that looks like. Just get back on track. Reduce decisions. I think this one for me is massive. You take away the decisions. Again, I've talked at length about my breakfasts, and I think for me, breakfast is just so important for my goals, for my fitness goals and my energy and my time. It achieves so many things for me. In my breakfast, lots of times I'll be cooking meat at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, because I know for a fact I need to have something in the fridge to warm up in the morning. I'll have an egg and I'll have warmed up meat. And it just really makes that morning routine super easy and consistent for me. I finish my breakfast and I feel better. I have more energy for the day. I can function better at work. My fitness goals are already taken care of in that first bit, because that's a big chunk for me. It's one of those things where if you just reduce that decision, I've already decided that I'll have meat in the fridge every morning. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to wake up in the morning and look in the fridge and then there's nothing ready. So then I just go get, Cheerios or whatever people eat for breakfast, or stop for a coffee and an egg McMuffin or whatever that is, right? So reduce those decisions. That's going to be a huge one. And to keep a non-negotiable habit, right? Similar vein, I guess. That non-negotiable for me is that meet with breakfast. Maybe that is a minimum of 5,000 steps or 10,000 steps, or a minimum of 3 sales calls, whatever that is. But that way, if I'm driving home from the office and I haven't made my 3 sales calls for that day, well, I better make them, right? And you just do it regardless of how tired you are. You kind of grind it out. And that's really, that's really part of it is having those things. Sometimes you don't feel like doing stuff, but your mind and your body lie to you all the time. Sometimes you have to do things you don't feel like doing to take yourself to that next step, right? So quite honestly, you don't really need motivation back. You just need less exit ramps on that freeway. Freeway! You just need less exit ramps on that freeway, because those exit ramps are so easy to just pull off and guide off, and I'm glad that showed up when it did. It's like if you really, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't want to drive anymore, and then there's a nice motel on the side of the road, it's middle of the night, and there's this nice thing on the side of the road. It's like vacancy. We have rooms, $50 a night, king bed, free breakfast. Well, it's going to be hard to keep driving through the night, right? It's really easy to just kind of pull off and have a nice rest, right? Now, as soon as I said that, I don't want people driving 3 o'clock in the morning getting in an accident because they're sleeping at the wheel. Don't take that so literally, but I hope you know what I mean. There's a ton of opportunities to just exit from your goals, and quietly. It's not embarrassing. It's not a big deal. And for most people, you're not going to share a goal with a bunch of people. So you're just staying consistent. You're just doing it to yourself, right? If I have something that I haven't shared with people, it's very, very easy to just not do it anymore, right? My flossing thing that I told you guys about, like, why would I tell you about my flossing routine, first of all? But also, that would have been so easy to just stop doing because I just did it on my own, right? That's where, again, we need to build in those easy habits and all that kind of stuff. But if it's something big, something kind of scary, especially the scary stuff, man, if you wanted to start a business and you don't commit to anybody, it's hard to keep going when it's so very easy and comfortable just to quit and give up. I think the one thing that I'd like to stress here, I think is to be a little bit, to be confident in myself here and say one thing that I'm very good at is not quitting. But to be very open and honest and transparent, one thing I think often about is quitting. Like it's so many things would be so easy to quit at. This podcast, for instance, like January, this time of year, this stuff resonates with me because I'm in it too, right? Like I'm feeling the same stuff. I'm feeling like, why am I doing anything that I'm doing? We went on a holiday over the break, which was beautiful. It was so fun to just spend time with family and just relax. But then instantly it's like, well, I could pump gas in this city and just do my thing and just live in the sunshine or whatever that looks like. I think about quitting all the time, but it's like being able to drive past those exits on the freeway. You can drive past them, you can see them, but you don't necessarily need to pull off. I think one thing that I've been able to do in my life is I've really only ever had 2 jobs, right? I was an electrician, then I was a realtor. Now my position now is just a expansion on being a realtor, really. Um, yeah, in my time as a realtor, have I thought of quitting? In my time as an electrician, did I think of quitting a lot more, or a lot earlier than I did? Yeah, heck yeah. I think that's human nature. It's the realization that sometimes stuff gets tough, and I think people need to realize that you're not broken because you feel like quitting. You're not damaged because you want to give up. It's the reality is life gets tough, things get difficult. It's hard to stay consistent. It's hard to keep moving forward, and you got to be honest with yourself and not think it's one big dream, one big unicorn fantasy, right? People don't get success overnight just by chance. I mean, it happens, sure, but the reality is you look at people that have, been ultra successful. It's hard not to compare. If you play hockey, you watch Connor McDavid skate on the ice and do his thing, and he's on this unbelievable streak right now. I don't even know what the streak is, 18 games with points, or I don't know what the stat is, but he's playing awesome. It's unbelievable to watch. And then I go out and play hockey in my beer league, and I feel like I should be able to do the same thing. No, well, he's obviously a freak of nature, really. He's built for it. He's built for the game. He's the best in the world, and he's also put in tremendous amounts of work and training and money and effort and diet and nutrition and taken huge risks to get where he is, all that kind of stuff, right? So you can't just compare to that. There's a lot of reasons why people have felt like quitting, and they just have to push through. I'm sure Connor McDavid has had times in his NHL career where he's like, why am I doing this anymore? This is tough, right? But at the end of the day, he has a goal of, I'm sure he has many goals, but he has a goal of the Stanley Cup. And you are just not going to win the Stanley Cup if you just give up after a few years. Feels like it's a goal that's far, far away right now, but the reality is you have to keep putting yourself in the position to succeed. And the only way you guarantee that's not going to happen is to quit. You can't guarantee you're going to win. You cannot guarantee you're going to succeed at everything. But at the very least, you need to put yourself in the position where it's a possible thing. It's a possible outcome. I think all the time about like, why in the hell do I do this, for instance? I love the sport and I love it and I enjoy it, but even something that you love, some days you just don't want to do, right? And so having those small commitments that you've set to yourself just to stay on track is crucial, or else it's just far too easy to quit. And I'm a big starter. I love starting things when I'm motivated, and quite honestly, I have a really hard time quitting stuff, which is something that I'm grateful that I have that in my DNA, because it's sometimes I probably don't quit quick enough, right? Or I don't give up on things fast enough, but I guess it's easier than the alternative, or better, definitely not easier. I guess it's better than the alternative. So I guess in closing, I just want to make sure that I'm very clear here. Again, loud quitting is very rare. It's the drift that we have to be mindful of. And I think it's super crucial to keep in mind. Everybody feels like they're drifting. Everybody feels like quitting. Everybody feels unmotivated. If motivation actually lasts forever, how do I say this? If motivation actually lasts forever, nobody would quit. That wouldn't be a thing, right? World would be messed up. This right now, what we're feeling, mid-January, dopamine's low, motivation is slipping. This is where people quit. And I think I want to be very clear in that, because if you have something you're striving towards, the realization is this is where it gets tough is going to help you say, okay, we'll push through this a little bit. I can push through anything for a couple weeks. And the beautiful part about motivation is it comes in waves. So which means you had it, it's gone, or maybe it's going to go away. But the beautiful thing is it will come back. You'll be walking down the street one day and you'll say, yeah, that's why I wanted to do this thing. And your motivation will be back and you'll be able to just ramp it up. And in the meantime, you didn't have to start over because you stayed consistent with the small activities, right? So you're in this peak motivated state, you do the extras, and then you drop your motivation and you do the bare minimum consistent things to stay on board. You don't fall backwards, you just stay consistent, and then you get motivated again. And then you can do those extras and just really turn that dial up, I guess. And then when you turn that dial up, the question is, are you still going to be standing when that motivation returns? Because you have the ability to just set the pace and keep going. But if you've totally given up, that motivation comes back and you're starting over. So just keep pushing on. The realization is Blue Monday's coming up. It's kind of downer. Everyone's like back into the grind. Don't be so hard on yourself. Yes, we need to keep pushing, but give yourself some grace and realize what's actually going on in your mind and in your body and in the world, why things feel so difficult. Because if you're listening to this and if you can push through and stay consistent, you're doing so much more than so many people. You're doing a mass amount. Even if you're just doing that bare minimum, staying consistent with those bare minimums, whatever it is, water, steps, 1 call a day, whatever that is for you, that's huge, because when that motivation comes back, you just, you're still on the freeway and you're still making those miles. So good job. Keep pushing. We got a couple really cool guests coming up. The next few months are going to be really fun with some cool guests coming up. We're going to talk to some business owners, somebody in marketing, some fitness experts, all that kind of stuff. So thanks again for staying along for the journey. Be sure to click subscribe, like, share, all that kind of stuff. If this was valuable, which I think it can be for a lot of people, this little 25 minutes or whatever it is, 20 minutes of a little bit of a boost in this downtime. If this is valuable, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody who might find value in it. Again, just help us grow that community, get the word out there, and support people in their own goal journeys. So thanks for coming along, sharing it with your friends. Look forward to chatting with you again soon.